Okay, so I guess to where we are today, the last year's been probably difficult, with the guys not wrestling in the Ivies and what was it
Yep. It
was
made my decision easy. It made my decision easier. I'm not going to deny it. It was incredibly frustrating. You put your whole world into this this pursuit of excellence, and that's it. I hate to say I'd like to say focused. I don't like to think I have blinders on, but I'm or one dimensional. But I really do put my whole life and my whole soul and everything into this sport and building this program. And philosophically, when you have some people who don't feel the same way, it's incredibly frustrating. It just and I don't want to get into that because it's too negative. I'm very thankful for everything Cornell's done for me, and I always will be. And leadership, Andy Noel, my athletic director, is my best friend. I do anything for him, but I will say I think that there's a little more opportunity in the next step when you go to a place that has some of the big time, football and basketball, and you have facilities that are a little bit different. Obviously, our Friedman Wrestling Center is the best in the world, bar none. But we're already talking about having an outdoor match in a football field with Iowa and trying to set a new attendance record. Those are things we can't ever do at Cornell. You'd be, might be under snow, and so. And I'm not trying to be cute. You just can't do that. There's just a different infrastructure for big time athletics at a school like Stanford that really attracts me.
were your frustrations with Cornell or the Ivies, and was there
Yeah, it
any
was
chance?
Ivy. It was Ivy. It was Ivy. Obviously, I said I don't want to bash that because
Sure,
it's hey, look, there's every school. There was other schools that had went through this, and I don't try to delude myself that there aren't going to be frustrations at wherever I go,
sure.
including obviously Stanford. Um, but they just dropped the program. People are like, that's the comparison. They didn't have a program last year, but that's why I want to go there, because I think they just have so much amazing ability to grow, and that's what I love doing as a coach. I love that part of the program. I love building endowment. I love raising the funds to be able to endow scholarships and endow assistant scholar coaches' salaries, and building an infrastructure for the RTCs and all those things. To me, the business side of coaching, they really get me. They get me excited every morning when I wake up. And a lot of coaches don't feel that way. When I was younger, I used to get up in the morning, get to practice by 6 a.m. and I wouldn't leave that room till 8 p.m. And I'm not exaggerating. I would just all day long. That was my focus, is teaching technique. And over time, I realized I had more value if I could bring in 5 other people to do that same amount of work. You can't do that if you don't have the resources. And a lot of young coaches think it's all about teaching moves. And I think that the reality is any of the best high school coaches in the country could technically lead college programs in the wrestling room. That's not the hard part. That's the easy part. And I believe we have a great system, and I know what we're doing. So it's not like I'm going to surround myself with people who know how to coach. It's just, if you don't have the resources to bring those coaches in, you're really limiting yourself, and that's quite honestly my forte, and that's what I've been working on for the last couple of days since I've been hired.
If the Stanford thing hadn't come up, is there any chance you would have left Cornell?
I'm not sure what would have happened. I was obviously, it's hard to leave a team that we've had. I mean, but it's just hard to make a change. You get comfortable someplace and you need some real kick in the butt to make some changes. Gabe leaving was rough because it's obviously a big change, and Max leaving was a big change, and so I was just focused on bringing in new coaches to replace those guys and figuring out how we're going to have a great year this year. I wasn't thinking about my early retirement in the Bahamas.
Okay. So this whole thing happened real fast. When did you get? I assume they contacted you, or that's how I understand it. When did that happen, and how quickly did things escalate, and what was that conversation like?
Yeah, got out of hand real quick. Instead, I never thought I'd even consider looking another job, but it happened. Let's see, I was down at Spartan Nationals helping Joe DeSena try to behind the scenes figure out how to grow that event. And Andy Noel got a call from their athletic director and called me up and said, "Hey, they want to talk to you." I flew into Ithaca 2 days later, and I was in California a day after that. And then I had to meet the team in Omaha, which was really, really odd because all this is going on. In wrestling, nothing is secret. You talk to one person and the Twitter dumb is out. It doesn't matter if it's accurate or not. Don't worry about the truth. Don't let that get in the way. But I all of a sudden I start getting notifications that I'm going to Stanford. I'm like, oh my God. So now my guys are hearing about this before I've had a chance to talk to anybody. The alumni are hearing about it. So my AD took it upon himself, rightfully so, to talk to the team. Say, hey, he's out there just interviewing. And quite honestly, when I went out there, I didn't know what I was going to see or didn't know what to expect. And I went out with a little bit of trepidation. And my first stop was San Francisco. And I'm like, I am not coming here. It was horrible. I know it was everything you see. I probably went to the wrong places. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not me. And it was cold and miserable. And then my wife and I made the rest of the trip to Palo Alto, and it's like almost like the sun. The clouds parted and the sun came out. It was beautiful, and it was just such a spectacular place. And I just love the feeling of being on a campus that really puts a really high premium on athletics in general. Cornell does it certainly for wrestling, by the way. I mean, the alumni, what they've done and what we built at Cornell is unlike anything else in the country. But this had a little bit bigger feel as far as the football field, the baseball fields, the lacrosse fields, all integrated together, and it seems like there's a little bit more, a lot more excitement for general sports in general.
So you're like, I saw San Francisco. I was like, no way. At what point were you like, actually, yeah, I'm in? Was it seeing the facilities? Was it the pitch they gave you? Was it resources? Was it something that?
No, it was just seeing the campus and seeing what I could do. How could I? I'm looking around, going, can I sell this? Is this something that I would want my children to go to be a part of? And it didn't take long when you're going and you're seeing how all the kids are living in one home on the farm, and as they refer to it, and how everything is. I mean, it's almost like the athletic department is the center of the universe out there, which is a little different than the Ivy League, obviously, which. Some of them they hide the athletics. They don't want anybody to think they have athletics, God forbid. And as opposed to Stanford, which really embraced it. And that was pretty telling right off the bat when I'm walking around with the associate athletic director, Jamie Breslin did a really nice job. And I got to meet the kids. I got to meet some of the wrestlers, obviously, and talked about making sure hey, look, I don't want to do this by myself. And I know that's my biggest push right now is make sure we keep everyone home, because they don't have to. It's not a total rebuild. People say, "Oh my God, you're gonna step in there. It's total rebuild." I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. They've got a good roster. They got some great kids. I finally have their names and numbers, so I can track them down and speak to these guys and get them as fired up as I am. Although they're probably already fired up. I've spent a lot of time talking to some of their key alumni and bringing some of our own along. So. Yeah, it just felt right, and my wife was excited about a change. And I tell you, I just feel like had become a little stagnant. And honestly, I look at our program. There's not a whole lot more else we can do. We can win the national championships. We won the Easterns. We set records for most Eastern titles. We set records for most Ivy League titles. We've had more All-Americans than any other school that won over 20 years or some period of time. The only thing we didn't do is win the national championships, and that's up to Mike Gray. It's his turn to do it, and he's got a team that can do it. Everything's got to fall right, but I'll tell you what, I'll be cheering for him until we get a team that's going to be knocking those guys off, which I don't think has to be a long time if we do things the right way.